rank him behind no one. He amazes me every week. He's always doing something special.
Getting back is Carey!
I predict he'll be a future champion, this kid.
I didn't want to go last because then I thought I might pull out.
Carey! Sit-down for the captain! Oh, Captain Carey!
This player's played for the last 10 years.
Where's Carey? There he is.
Carey! Carey!
It's going to go!
The record they said would never fall. It did, and how. Plugger 1300 is the story of the man behind the most famous goal-kicking feat in history by the man himself, Tony Lockett. From shy St Kilda player into the most potent forward in 102 years of league footy. Plugger 1300. The story, the highlights, the goals. It's all here in this special expanded video version presented by Jason Dunstall. Get your copy at these stores now.
Make my day.
Make Dad's Day with a full-length AFL-approved historic video of his favourite footy club, Essendon, St Kilda, Hawthorn, Melbourne, Richmond, plus a large glass beer stein emblazoned with the logo and the club song, plus a club badge keychain. Over $50 value for only $39.95.
Make my day.
Make Dad's Day with the AFL gift pack from these stores now.
Make my day.
McKernan loads it up and gives it a run. Kicks the goal. You're joking. Imposing yourself.
Puts them inside 50. Down towards Carey.
Pushes it away from Welsh to Abraham. Winnie's going to stroll in and kick a goal.
Add the official 1999 AFL Grand Final video to your collection. It's available at these stores right now. Bigger than the sensational 70s. More explosive than the electrifying 80s. The 90s were the decades that delivered. Nearly 2.5 hours of non-stop action. An extraordinary look at football in the 90s. The emotion, the elation, the biggest stories, the greatest highlights. It's all here in The Decades That Delivered. It's out on video and available at these stores now. It will be remembered as the last year of the century, the last year of the millennium. It will be remembered for the pain of James Hird and Sean Wren, the fairy tale surge by Carlton from near obscurity into a grand final, and for the might of the Kangaroos as they won a fourth flag. We'll look back on an all-conquering season from the Brownlow medalist Shane Crawford, and with sadness as we farewelled Victoria Park and Waverley. It was a year in which coaches came and went, and the veterans battled on. But when we look back on 1999, one man will always stand head and shoulders above the rest.
And Port lead the Crows 2-1. Nathan Eagleton, a couple of touches in that passage, finishing up with a goal. He gets another kick here from Primus's palm down. Primus once again. He's taken high by Rashudo and takes the free. Adelaide Crow player down from the centre. Oh, don't tell me it's Sean Wren.
It was a year that started tragically for the top big man in the competition. Sean Wren requiring a third knee reconstruction after this incident in the Ansett Cup match against Port Adelaide. He'd missed the year. Nearly 50,000 would see Hawthorn continue its renaissance of '98 to thrash Port Adelaide in the final. One of the oldest men in the game, Paul Salmon, overcame hamstring doubts to win the Tuck medal.
And now if I can present the trophy, Craig, to Ken Judge and Shane Crawford of the Hawthorn Football Club.
Record opening round crowds saw in the new season. On a Thursday night in March, 71,000 of them at the MCG to see Essendon run away from Carlton.
Lucas trying to find a way. Mercury also clever. Gets around. Bounce. Kick a goal here. 45 out. Wonderful. Magnificent.
He's come back from 6 years up at Wagga, and he's playing a role as an assistant coach to Kevin Sheedy this year with Robert Shaw. The kick in towards the middle of the ground has been marked by Allen, but push pay. Now, come on, John.
I didn't pay it.
Oh, how do you defend
Oh, is he
it?
giving that a roost?
Lucas has kicked the goal.
The next night, the same ground, a classic. Geelong, with Hocking on fire, came from behind to snatch an improbable 6-point win over the Kangaroos in a free-scoring heartstopper.
Out of the air. Burns and Pickett. Burns kicks it. The goal's been kicked by Arnott miraculously.
Wizard's wizard, and he's always a cheeky little bugger, and that's why we love him. He's just fantastic, and he can pop up and kick 6 goals. Next week he might take mark of the year. He's very unpredictable, but you can count on one thing, that he's going to have a dip each week.
The Wiz, Jeff Farmer, booted 6 to fire Melbourne. And Darryl White chipped in with 5 as Brisbane took top spot on the ladder as new coach Lee Matthews spoiled Tim Watson's coaching debut at St Kilda. The reigning premier started unconvincingly. The Bulldogs, with Hudson on target, making up for a preliminary final mauling by Adelaide.
Hutto is a guy who just finishes off so well, and I suppose that's the major point of his game.
Hawthorn's talented youngsters helped account for Collingwood, despite the efforts of Nathan Buckley.
Yeah, Jared showed exactly what we'd hoped when we recruited him, and to his credit, he produced in a big game.
Schofield kicked 5 as Port Adelaide gave notice of their new season form with a telling win over Sydney at the SCG. While across the continent, Fremantle's errant kicking would cost dearly. With Kemp the star, the Eagles won a thrilling local derby by 4 points. Brownlow medal hopes dissolved over Easter as James Hird limped from the field with a stress fracture in his foot. His Bombers, though, 6-goal winners over the Kangaroos.
Big punch away there by Heffernan. Goes to the feet there of Alessio. Mercury dispossessed. Fletcher caught with the footy. Gets the handball away. Mercedes running onto it. Just bangs it onto his boot and kicks it forward. And Lucas, he couldn't quite take the mark. But in goes Michael Long. The excitement machine for the Bombers. He's got the goal. McKernan early. Couldn't take the mark. Strong at the football there was Heffernan. Went back after it again. Chance for Harvey. Out wide Durkay. The silky skills of Gary Durkay. To Grant. Kick it quickly. Does. Oh, that is class. C-L-A-S-S Shannon Grant. Simons, the jumping jack for the Bombers. Kicks the ball to within 35 metres. No mark. The ball spills. Mercury back to Lucas. Lucas onto the trusty left. Gets terrific distance, Scott Lucas. And looks as though he's kicked the goal.
The upside of it in there is we can bring Rioli on the list. So it'll be out Hird and probably in Rioli at the present time, but it's just very, very unfortunate for Jim.
I'll play again. There's not even any. I'll have as many operations I'll have as whatever I have to do to play, because that's my life and that's what I love doing, and that won't be my last game of footy.
Magpie skipper Nathan Buckley sidelined too. A fractured jaw, the result of this crunch with Carlton's Justin Murphy.
I haven't had a busted jaw before, but I believe it's broken in a couple of spots. Definitely one, and I'll be in to get it fixed as soon as possible, and the early predictions are 4 to 6.
In Stephen Silvani's 250th game, the Blues, with the veteran Bradley superb, too good in front of 70,000.
Once again, just a wonderful player, Craig Bradley. Kicks into the pocket. The mark is taken by Whitnell away from Sherman. Gee, goodness magnificent. Bradley.
Magnificent.
Now we'll see if he's got quality possessions. Have a look at this, Brett Ratton. Bang! Brett, you've kicked the goal. Well done.
Another massive goal-kicking performance by Geelong. 15 Cats scoring majors in a 21-point win over the Dogs, despite 7 from Brown. Matty Richardson, with 12 marks, produced his best as Richmond defeated Sydney by 2 goals.
I mean, Richo's got that ability just to play well on any day. I mean, he's an exciting talent.
Tony Modra kicked 6 for his new side Fremantle, but they weren't enough to halt Port Adelaide, while David Wirapunda underlined his growing maturity in the Eagles' 10-point win over Brisbane.
I like to walk out on the ground thinking I'm better than the next player or the player that I'm playing on, and that's what I've pretty much brought out of myself over the last couple of weeks.
Tim Watson enjoyed his first coaching success as St Kilda wrapped up its match against Melbourne by half-time. Stewie Lowe the focal point. And victory for Adelaide. Pittman starring in a 4-point win over Hawthorn. The standout performance of round 3 was undoubtedly Matthew Lloyd's 13 goals for Essendon in an 81-point win over Sydney. 50,000 at the MCG watching the youngster in superb form.
Buick out wide. Buick's kick to within scoring distance. Lloyd at the back. I think he's got it, hasn't he? He certainly had his hands on it. So Matthew Lloyd going for his second from about 20 metres, and he just pops it through beautifully. He looks a likely type too. The kick towards, great leap and mark. He jumped early again, didn't he? He's going for goal number 10. He's going to wind himself up too, and he's going to kick a bomb. You can raise to your feet, folks. That's fantastic stuff.
Straight down the centre of the ground. He'll go long. Where's Lloyd? Not in this contest. Caracella, did he get the mark? No, he didn't. Troy Cook flips it up. Here he is. That's number 13 for him.
What about Michael Long?
Do you think you'll play full forward next week?
Yeah, I don't know.
I
centre forward, I know play full forward today, but centre forward, I'd love to be remembered as a great centre forward as well. So
I'll get you there.
Acting skipper Gary Hocking inspired Geelong as the Cats made it 3 in a row with a gutsy 6-point win over Melbourne. And Port Adelaide was undefeated too. The Power, with Kingsley starring, 23-point winners over Brisbane.
Across to Lyle, round his body, great kick, 4th goal to the Power.
I think the whistle might have been poised.
We let him know, surely. It was a great tackle. Good hands there from Franco. Burgoyne again, high, inside the 50. Coming out for the spoil was Scott, over the back, Stuart Dew. He runs on. This is another goal for the Power.
Taken away from Burgoyne, it spills to Treadray. Magnificent hand pass to Franco. 65 metres out, to the top of the goal square. Oh, Stevens just crashed through the air and kicked the goal.
Murphy and Brown in the midfield set up Carlton's win over the Bulldogs, while Scotty Cummings kicked 7 as the Eagles kept their 1999 record intact with a 6-goal win over Collingwood at Victoria Park.
He's got a great technique.
He has got a technique, but 7 goals 3 is 3 short of what I would like.
Matthew Robran ignited the Crows as they edged in front of St Kilda after half-time. Adelaide by 15 points. Recruit Gary Durkay and veteran Mickey Martin helped the Kangaroos come from behind in the last term to beat Richmond by 10 points. And with skipper Shane Crawford in everything and Angelo Lekis notching 34 possessions, Hawthorn kicked away after the last break against the Dockers. A round of high drama. Sydney came from 47 points down in the second quarter to upset the Kangaroos. Kelly and Maxfield on fire.
Barry needs support. Gets it in the form of Scotty Russell. Under pressure all the time. Kicks in towards goal. Kelly on the ground. Yes!
Oh, Winston is off. Gets around Maxfield eventually, but is forced to kick high. Difficult one to grab. Luffed it well. Couldn't take the mark. Wharf takes the hand pass. They're out of trouble again. Maxfield's running on centre wing. He looks down towards the 50. Over the 50. To Captain Kelly. Simpson's on his hammer. Kelly's still going. Still going. He strikes 1. He strikes 2. Oh! What a goal! 5-point margin. The Kangaroos lead. Sydney in attack. McKernan doing the ruck work from behind. He's been excellent. Bomford to the left footer. He pumps it high. It's big.
A rushed behind from Russell Robertson enabled Melbourne to scrape home by a point against Hawthorn. Ingerson the star. Essendon lost its first match of the season. In fact, the Dons kicked only 3 goals against the Eagles, who were magnificently served by youngsters Cousins and Wirrapunda. Port Adelaide too lost for the first time. Geelong made it 4 in a row. That man Hocking again.
Pass okay to Burns. Made a flying start, then Wanganeen went onto him and sat on him. Chalmers at the back. Burns, a magnificent steal. Nice dumbing hand pass to Hocking. He should finish it off, but
Young and Thompson guided St Kilda to an impressive 8-point win over the Bulldogs at Waverley. while the Wooden Spooners of 1998, Brisbane, kicked 11 second-half goals to 2 against Adelaide, the premiers of 1998. McRae and Ashcroft in the thick of things.
Yeah, I mean, Marcus was terrific, obviously, today, but Craig McRae and Nigel and Jason Ackermans, they all got a lot of the ball, and I guess the four of them are our best runners. So if those four players are getting the ball, we're getting a bit of carry.
Brett Ratton was Carlton's outstanding player against Fremantle, while 14 Tigers joined in a goal feast against Collingwood. It would be the Magpies' 10th straight loss, their worst run ever.
On the prowl, the one thing Ange Christou never lost was his confidence.
Electric windows, power steering, air conditioning, central locking. I think this car's for you. Trust me. Trust me.
The part-time car salesman talking himself through the painful road back from a degenerative disc in his back.
Couldn't cough, couldn't sneeze. At times I couldn't go to the toilet, couldn't sit down, couldn't sleep, couldn't do anything.
Christou tried everything to get back on the park, his last game, round 9, 1997, and despite the advice of 2 specialists, managed to give surgery the boot.
As you can see, the boot's very spacious, very roomy. You could even fit your mother-in-law or even your husband, for that matter, your groceries.
If he listens to this or sees it, he might be very happy, but I in my own mind, planned without him.
After 3 straight losses, the Western Bulldogs hit back with a 10-goal win over Richmond. The Bulldogs led brilliantly by those 2 Scots, Wind and West.
Something will come of this one, and Scotty West will probably kick a goal. He will. He judged that to a nicety. Certainly in the second term, but this is Cook we're watching. Going for goal number 3, kicks it right to the line. Gale couldn't take the mark. Rowan Smith, little leftward, kicks a beauty. About 30 metres, slight angle, and he's put it through. His kick goes down towards the wing. Good interception there by Darcy. He's been on the bench for quite a while. That should be a free kick against Powell.
Should have been
on
one to
Gasper.
Darcy too.
Gee whiz.
The whistle away.
Yes. Winmar with the footy, runs away from half forward. Good kick by Nicky Winmar. Rowan Smith, they're sharing it up. Oh, look at those 2 or 3 paces that Scotty West put in. He thought the Storm gift was his.
Even with the champ Gary Hocking suspended, Geelong won its 5th in a row. And some were talking great things of the Cats of 1999. Darren Milburn a standout in the 50-point annihilation of Carlton. The Eagles too made it 5 in a row. Cummings with 6 was well supported by Mitchell White as the West Coast led all day against Hawthorn.
I see it as my last opportunity. It's probably why I've worked so hard in the off-season, and things are starting to work out a bit for me.
David Neitz kicked 6 for Melbourne as the Demons disposed of a disappointing Port Adelaide.
Yeah, it was great. Just throughout the week, just sort of sat down with Neil and looked at the video and got out in the training track and practiced kicking a few goals and managed to kick a few straight today, which is good.
What about that one out in the full?
What one out the full, mate?
I see Melbourne have put Jeff White down the full forward, see if they can get a lift from him.
Well, here they come. Now, this is Guy Ragoni. He's a great kick. He's kicking it towards Neitz, and that's a great mark. Hands out in front, no batsman can stop that.
He's also playing with a lot of confidence. He's had a few injuries in the past, like a broken jaw, and injuries that often play with confidence. And now he's really taken some good grabs, and not just today, but right through the beginning of the season.
It's going to be his 3rd goal here. He's normally pretty good. He's kicked it, I think.
McDonald feeds on over to Rigoni, the hard-running Rigoni. Kicks, here's Farmer. He has got an absolute paddock around him. Chip kick. Neitz has got it. Thank you.
6 straight. He didn't want to kick a point, so he kicked one out in the full.
The Kangaroos made Sydney their home for the first time and had to overcome a Robert Harvey-inspired St Kilda to win by 2 points. At Football Park, Sydney's woes continued as the Crows, with Mark Stevens kicking 6, won by a massive 81 points. Jarman sensational.
Here by Stevens and bangs it through.
50 metres out. Drop punt going into the square. Stevens, one of the flyers, forced to defend. Jarman! And there is the penalty.
The traditional Anzac Day clash between Essendon and Collingwood saw Lloyd kick 6 in a best-of-field display that helped stretch the Magpies' woes to 11 straight losses. While in Perth, Craig Lambert led Brisbane to a 55-point win over the Dockers.
Presidents arrived at today's meeting keen to resolve footy's burning issue.
I think that's in the best interest of football. I think it's the best interest of David Shaw.
And it came quick enough. As requested, the President's absolving Shaw of any blame.
The AFL presidents and chairmen are unable to reach any conclusion in respect of the knowledge of the salary cap breaches, the subject of the Brown report.
Shaw keeping his end of the deal and stepping aside, ending a long career in football.
Save and accept that I've had 40 great years in football and like to reflect on all those memories. It's been fantastic.
And taking one last line of defence in a statement, claiming he was absolutely unaware of any alleged breaches of the salary cap during his term at Essendon.
Jill Brownlow medalist Robert Harvey of St Kilda was credited with 36 disposals in a match-winning display against Carlton under lights at the MCG.
He was just superb, I guess, as an opposition coach sees someone, and we tried lots of people and options and tags and all sorts of things for the night, but he just went about his work and unmolested almost for the 100 minutes.
Heatley trying to provide the lead. He goes into the pocket, kicked by Young, gathered by Trionides. Now Thompson, deep in the pocket. Thompson snapshot, looks like a goal. Gathered by Carr, Rice confronting, but Carr shrugs the tackle, kicks towards full forward, punched away by Manton, kicked by Walton. He's got another one. What a good kick again by Walton.
Cut off there by Ryan. Hume gets hold of it, can't get the handball away. Harvey weaving some magic, delivers. Mitchell, he kick a goal here. He's 40 metres out, takes his time and drills it home.
Geelong's winning run came to an end at the hands of Hawthorn. Shane Crawford starring as the Hawks won yet another thriller at Shell Stadium by 2 points.
Trent Crowe, first pick for the Hawks in the 97 draft. That is why. Great kick from the forward. Salmon in ruck against Barnes. Barnes, a hand on the shoulder. Surely it's a free kick. It's paid.
Why isn't the advantage allowed?
He's going to give it. The umpire's going to now pay advantage. A late call, and it's a goal to the Hawkers.
And maybe keep the ball dead and buried.
Geelong unbeaten in 1999, trailing by 2 points, and they're in trouble. The Hawks have been magnificent here at Shell Stadium.
Matty Richardson with 4 goals did his best for Richmond, but it wouldn't be enough as Essendon made it 5 from 6 with a 35-point win. Undefeated and alone on top of the ladder, the West Coast looked impregnable after a 12-goal win over the Bulldogs that was inspired by Ben Cousins.
No, it's probably one of my better games, yeah. I just been scratching around the place and, you know, it was good to play a good game, and especially against them.
Under the Gabba lights, the Lions, with Ackermanis and Huskis dominant, easily accounted for Melbourne. Adelaide won the showdown with co-tenant Port Adelaide, thanks to 5 goals from Robran, but failed to impress coach Blight. Anthony Stevens sparked the ruse as the Magpies' losing streak extended to 12. And with Tony Locker kicking 5 and creeping closer to the goal-kicking record, the Swans suddenly looked daunting. Sydney's second win of the season by 25 points.
Members put on their boots and hard hats, but these were no ordinary hats. They were stamped with the Gold Medallion Club exclusivity.
Down to the Colonial Stadium and have a look, and boy, you know, fork out a few bob.
Forking out over $4,000 each year, the party checked out what they're buying into. The Medallion Club will span from goalpost to goalpost. If the footy gets too much, members can always sit at what will be one of the longest bars in Australia, with a view of the Balti Bridge.
With over 60 wineries represented on the wine list and fine food covering pretty well all tastes from all corners of the globe.
Welcome to the new Colonial Stadium, an array of high-tech innovations, from the retractable roof and seating, 2 massive video screens, and even parking right under the turf.
You're going to be able to actually, touch and feel almost the players themselves. From a player's perspective, it's going to be really, it's going to blow their minds.
It was a round that saw St Kilda end West Coast's unbeaten run on top of the ladder. The Saints, with bustling Barry Hall supreme, won a low-scoring game at Waverley.
I didn't have any real preconceived ideas about Barry, but in terms of what he's shown me, he just hasn't put a foot wrong.
Crisis talks at Richmond were in the air after the Tigers lost to Carlton. Matty Richardson a beacon for the losers with 5.
I think Richardson's been magnificent all year.
The Bulldogs continued their climb, with Darcy and Scott West outstanding. They defeated Port Adelaide by 45 points.
Luke, I suppose, probably had a little bit of pressure on himself tonight. You know, he hasn't had the opportunities over the last few weeks because Windy's really sort of taken control of that area. So he had his opportunity tonight, and I thought he handled himself very well.
Melbourne showed some of the spark of '98 with a strong victory over Essendon. Farmer with 6 for the Demons, overshadowed by Lloyd's 7 for the Losers.
Here's the dangerous Farmer. He's up and running. He dodges. Oh, dummies a hand pass. Oh, Leoncelli was caught a little bit high. James McDonald, the long bomb, in towards full forward. They need a mark. Neitz is at the back. That was high, I think, on Longmuir. Play on, no, it'll come back on if Farmer kicked the goal. Now, if he's kicked the goal, it'll be paid. If not, it'll come back for another kick. And he's kicked the goal, Jeffrey Farmer. So Joe Mercedes at half-back for the Bombers. Kicks over the centre. Alessio has it thumped away by Seacamp. Taken by Eastor. Lloyd and Ingerson. Lloyd, it'll sit for him into an open goal. Number 6 coming up to Matthew Lloyd.
Lappin and McRae stood out in Brisbane's 34-point win over Collingwood, while Schwass was devastating for Sydney as the Swans' improvement continued with a 28-point win over the Hawks. Geelong, on the other hand, were on the slide. Fremantle's Damien Drum recorded his first coaching success with a 17-point upset. Modra booting 6. The Dockers storming home.
He goes straight towards goal. Keep your hands to yourself, Tony Modra. He does. Nearly takes the mark. He's got a chance to recover. Left foot snap. Well done by Tony Modra.
The Cats, a quality outfit, make no mistake. And how painful would it be for the Dockers if they were to lose this now? Hand pass comes out from McManus. Prescott. High one towards half forward. Lynch over the top. Quicksilver behind though is Taylor. Threads the needle down to Modra. And Modra's marked about 30 metres out. So Tony Modra going at his 6th here to get it back to 15 points. Marvellous kick under pressure. Marvellous kick.
Well, Geelong have got the ball across the half-back line. Brad Scholl will kick them into attack. But it's all over. It's all over, folks. It has been one of the best victories so far in season 1999 because the Dockers, who trailed by 31 points at quarter time, have won this match by 17 points.
The Kangaroos opened with a 10-goal quarter, and they saw Scholl kick 6 and Grant Starr as they accounted for the Adelaide Crows by 56 points. A 6-goal final quarter and blistering performances from Robert Harvey and Nathan Burke gave St Kilda a 43-point win over Essendon in the opening game of round 8.
Out wide, Harvey gets back onto the right and then unselfishly and quite strategically in the finish gets the ball to Lowe. Well, he's going directly towards goal with the drop punt. If he kicks accurately, it looks good, scores a level.
Worman, low, clearly. Burke running onto it. Burke with pace, accelerates, 45 metres out. Nathan Burke has kicked a ripper.
Centre bounce, and he gets a right fist to it. Belts it clear. Thompson's been terrific. Hudson. And Hall. Well, that was basically a practice run, wasn't it? Big Peter Everett got the right fist to it. And Michael Long coming off the ground. The 4 behinds that he's kicked could quite easily have been goals. He's kicked 5 goals for.
I reckon that Burke is an excellent player for us in defence, and I just believe that he can be the glue that keeps the back 6 together, and he does that time and time again.
Does he like it back there, or
No, he doesn't like it back there.
On the coldest May day for 22 years, Collingwood broke the drought. Patterson and Buckley spearheading a second-half revival against Fremantle at the MCG.
Bandy in trouble, dragged down. Buckley against the flow. Something good can happen here for Collingwood. He kicks, and he kicks a goal. That's a team lifter. High kick down towards half forward. Buckley gave a contest. It spills wide. Patterson, great balance by Patterson. 60 metres out across the body. It bounces about 25 metres out. Oh, well done. Rocket to Buckley. Buckley snaps. What a wonderful goal in the wet.
Freo, you won't see daylight. Whipped out to Buckley. Oh, puts it into space. Rocker's there. Charging straight at it, Patterson. A goal here will be handy. Patterson on the turn has kicked a ripper.
One down by Monkhorst. Terrific. King floats one to half forward. Lucuria. 72 to 47. Lucuria off his step. High ball going back McManus. In fact, Lucuria's got it now as he kicks it down towards the pocket. Coming across on the angle is Patterson behind the pack. Snaps. And he's got another one. His fourth.
Did some good things, but it wasn't an out-and-out Nathan Buckley best-on-ground performance from my thinking in the box. I don't know, I might be wrong.
Scotty West worked too hard to feel the cold. Melbourne, those, left shivering as they were overrun by the Bulldogs. A depleted Carlton struggled all night against Port Adelaide at Football Park. Treadway with 3 goals, the Power's best. The King was back on his throne. 7 goals to Wayne Carey.
Well, that speaks volumes about him, that he can have 3-4 weeks off, come back and kick 7. I mean, it's a privilege to play with him.
And 7 goals to Scotty Cummings as the West Coast blitzed Adelaide and moved 2 games clear on top of the ladder. With 3 goals in the first 15 minutes, Tony Lockett mania hit Geelong. The big bloke was restricted to 6 as the Swans won by 7 goals. In a weekend when big bags were commonplace, Matty Richardson chipped in with half a dozen in an unconvincing 16-point win over Brisbane. Five goals to Paul Hudson and an impressive performance in the midfield from Scott West set up an easy victory for the Bulldogs against Collingwood. Buckley gathering 38 possessions in a losing side. On an overcast day at Optus Oval, ruckman Matthew Allen demoralised Melbourne. The Demons down by 33 points.
I thought Matt Allen was a very, very good player in each of the roles that we asked him to do today. I thought he did extremely well.
At Waverley, the lights were on by half-time, but Essendon had already delivered the knockout blow to Hawthorn. Lloyd with 5 and the dangerous Moorcroft starring. Peter Bell returned and was devastating against his old side Fremantle in Perth. He kicked 4 for the Kangaroos and Shannon Grant 5 in a 30-point win. Again, Matthew Richardson would be the hero for the Tigers as Richmond slipped away from Adelaide in the rain. It was enough to have coach Jeff Geeshan dancing for joy.
Standing start, pumps it long. Can anyone get a touch to it? An opportunity if it goes through. I think it went through, or did it not? There's a goal. Clay Sampson, you've done it against your old side. Here's Hart and Broderick going at it once again. Burke gives it out towards Broderick. He shrugs the tackle, goes onto that left foot and kicks him inside 50. Richardson is lurking nearby, but so too is this guy. He shoots in towards goal. Clay Sampson, he's against his old team, and Richardson has dropped back to the mark.
Well, that was a magnificent move by Clay Sampson and Matthew Richardson. He's just taken so many marks running towards the goal tonight that it's been a terrific setup by, I think, the coach Jeff Geeshan, the way he's orchestrated his forward line.
Richardson from point-blank range, and the lead changes hands again. Gale and Pittman jostling in the middle. Look at the sensational tackle for the ball to spill free to Broderick. Broderick kicks it back up towards half-forward. Burke is there outside 50. Kicks it in towards the pocket. Richardson is there!
Jared, it's hard to understand why Connell didn't soccer the ball off the ground.
2 goals for the night, 26 for the season, but that's the most important one maybe, and he's got it. Robran comes in over the top, it's socket off the ground, and there it is! Tigers have won a thriller, and they are absolutely ecstatic. The boys from the benches have leapt out and gone to meet their charges. This is a big win for the Richmond Football Club. A big win.
5 first-half goals to Craig McRae ruined Geelong's trip to Brisbane. With Scotts and Ashcroft clear-cut winners, the Lions eased home by 10 goals. 11 goals up at half-time, St Kilda slowed after the break in its Sunday game at Waverley. Robert Harvey was sensational in a 62-point win. More plugger mania in Sydney. The West Coast ready and capable of ruining the celebrations. Again, it would be Ben Cousins who starred in a 13-point win to the Eagles.
We are very pleased with the way Ben is coming on, and we would like to think that he'd be around the club for a number of years and demonstrate that he can be a champion. But he's not a champion. He's a very good footballer who's on the way to being a first-class citizen and a first-class footballer.
In season 1999, there would be only one State of Origin game, fought out in atrocious conditions between the old rivals South Australia and Victoria.
These conditions, particularly the first 15 minutes. First 15 minutes, we get it going our way.
Goes short to Hart. He's at fullback. He can find Nigel Smart at halfback. Nigel normally loves a run. Now let's fly with a big flat-looking punt that goes almost down to half forward towards Robin, who certainly won't be appreciating these conditions. Here's Craig McRae. Goal goes McRae. Big start by South Australia.
It's actually come off the hands of Koutafidis at the front, and that's the umpire was calling play on as soon as it popped up in the air, Macca.
We were looking at it as you spoke, Pete, from where you were. It would have looked very good indeed. Socket off the ground by Camporelli, down towards the forward line, and Daffy. Oh! Let's go through for a goal to McRae. There's another one.
Wayne Campbell just rushed himself on that occasion. Lloyd found space, but the execution certainly wasn't there.
Everett and Clark. Well, here's an opportunity, trying to bend it back. And through is Harvey. Brett Harvey. Welcome to State of Origin football. In front, but couldn't take it. Spider Everett pushes it wide. Chance now for Victoria with only a couple of minutes remaining. Scotty West looks down towards the 50. A high floating punt kick. No one able to take it cleanly. Lloyd sits out the hand pass. Back towards Grant. That is a very clever kick. Harvey for goal. One of a couple multiple goal kickers. He gives it to Thompson, who kicks down towards half forward. Viney couldn't take it cleanly. The lap and hand pass okay, but an effective smother. Well, it ricochets back to Harvey. 55 metres out. He wants to go all the way. This could skid through. McKay chases, and he won't get there. Great goal, Brett Harvey. Hart needs someone going past. Has him in Camporelli. Gives it back to Rashudo. He bounces this in towards goal. Here's one for Holland. Maybe that's what they need to get them going. Holland gets his second.
Taken by Leoncelli, back to Lappin, pick it onto him, back to Leoncelli, couldn't quite. Hocking, fantastic play to Campbell, to the goal square. Lloyd couldn't quite. Everything's important here. Harvey's kick 4, clever, very clever. Wonderful footy to Lloyd. Scooped it back towards Campbell, who's been outstanding. Hooks it back. Pittman and Everett, an important ball here. Comes to ground. Harvey's been absolutely brilliant. This would top off a sensational match. He's done it. He's done it in more ways than one.
In a round that will be remembered in goal-kicking history, it was Tony Modra who struck the first blow with a 10-goal bag in an upset win for Fremantle over Melbourne. Daniel Bandy was outstanding.
Daniel's been given this, he's got a laugh right at the minute, and he understands that he's been in the system now for 4 or 5 years and hasn't done much with what he's been given by God, and he's got to produce, and he's just starting to do that a bit.
Blake Caracella kicked 6 for the Bombers as they continued Adelaide's horror run. With Long and Masiti, Caracella was superb. Another big day for Robert Harvey, who came back after a heavy knock to guide his Saints to a 10-point win over Geelong.
And I have to say, he looked like death warmed up after Hocking really shook him up, and I know that he was hurting, and he's pretty special, that bloke.
Matty Richardson kicked 1-4 for the Tigers, but his 18 marks made it a memorable performance. His lone hand would not be enough as Hawthorn, with Paul Salmon in control, won by a goal. Torrential rain had turned the Gabba into a lake, and that suited the Bulldogs just fine. Garlic and Wine starred in a low-scoring slog. Outsiders Carlton travelled to Subiaco. Anthony Koutafidis returned to his best, and the Blues upset the current flag favourites by 17 points. In a thriller at the MCG, Port Adelaide and the Kangaroos produced one of the great finishes. Harvey and King providing the firepower in the last moments as the Roos won by 7 points. The talking point of the round, Big Tony Lockett. He needed 3, kicked 9 and became the first man to kick 1,300 goals, overtaking the 62-year-old record of Gordon Coventry along the way. Oh, the Swans picked up the points against Collingwood as well.
He's improved his angle, goes for it, and drills. He's getting closer. To Barry, they can create something. Plugger hasn't moved yet. He might go now. Barry hard and long. One out.
Yes.
Monkey's going to get back. Plugger's got it. He's going to equal the record. It's all square. 1-2-9-9. We're there. Terrific tackle there by Batharis. Little kick around the corner from Goods. Maxfield didn't panic, didn't rush. Kelly and Burns off all in the fall. Yep. Kelly's kick. Well, this could be interesting.
Look at Monkey racing back to try and get there.
We're very close to quarter time. Plugger goes. He goes. He gets it. There it is. He gets it. Well, you feel like there's so much to say.
Bruce, you said that Kelly would love to kick it to him. He has done that. The security are running from everywhere. Now, he played on last time from here. So I was about to say, what would happen if he played on with the siren went?
So he cannot improve the angle. So, for 90 years, the Collingwood Footy Club have held the record, and for 62 years, it stood at 12.99. Will he write his name in the record book forever?
Come on, Plugger.
With this kick, it's going to go.
Got it!
It's there. He's done it. And aren't we privileged to be a little part of it? A remarkable player ensures the fact for however long we play the game, he will be remembered forever. Who knows who the greatest of them all is, but we can tell you now that nobody who's played the great game has kicked as many as this man. He deserves to stand on the highest peak. It is the most fantastic feeling.
The Seven Network would celebrate the record with a 1-hour special, Plugger 1300.
I've always loved playing footy, always did as a kid, and I just guess I'm one of the lucky ones that have made a career out of it, and having thoroughly enjoyed my time and feel very honoured to have been able to play for so long.
Unique 65 metres out, centering towards Lockett. Graham, Lockett's got it. Just his strength. Graham just ran into a brick wall, and his name was Lockett.
After this, there might only be 11 to go, see.
The chase has absorbed the nation. It was the record they said could never be broken.
No, Lockett's record will never be broken because players just don't play it full forward for long enough anymore.
I think it's probably scary in effect too that the number of games that Tony's missed with suspension and injury, and if they'd have been able to control better at an early age, I think he would have smashed the record 2 or 3 years ago.
But it would take one hell of a player, one hell of a player. I mean, this is a guy I've seen him kick 12 goals and his side lost. I mean, boy, one of the things that helps him, of course, kick goals is he's just a tremendous kick.
Applied around the middle of the ground, you would think if the ball's going to come in.
Lockett's style is reflected in his figures. 7 out of every 10 shots result in goals.
Which may leave just 9 left. Beautiful kick. Have a look at that. That's a video you can watch if you want to kick a goal.
Rookie Dean Rioli and young goal-kicking sensation Matthew Lloyd each kicked 5 goals as Essendon started the 11th round with a 34-point win over Geelong in front of 61,000. For the first time in 10 years, Brisbane won at Optus Oval. Lynch and Voss starring in a crucial win over Carlton. St Kilda's winning run was halted by Sydney. Mobile big man Adam Goods underlining his claim to be the recruit of the year.
Yeah, he did an excellent job today. He's a terrific kid already, but he's going to be a real superstar, that kid, I think, of the game.
In a low-scoring slog at Football Park, Port Adelaide's 4 goals was enough to keep Richmond out of the points. The Tigers had kicked 1 goal to three-quarter time. In game number 200 for Bulldog star Chris Grant, the points would be halved as his team drew with Hawthorn. Crawford a standout for the Hawks with 30 possessions.
His tackle at the end was terrific, wasn't it? I mean, he's just a great competitor, and he's the captain. That's why he's the captain. I mean, he leads from the front, and he's played on a good player today and beat him. And
Adelaide slumped to 14th position on the ladder, their lowest in their brief AFL career. Holland and Modra with 4 goals led the Fremantle charge in a decisive 39-point win. Melbourne continued to threaten the top 8. Shane Woewodin the best in an 11-point win over great rival Collingwood.
I thought Shane Woewodin did a fantastic job today on Nathan Buckley. That was really important to our win.
And in another home game in Sydney, the Kangaroos, with Winston Abraham firing, defeated ladder leaders West Coast to make it 7 wins in a row. The aerial work of Tiger sensation Matthew Richardson and 6 superb goals inspired Richmond in its Friday night clash with Geelong. With Daffy and Duncan Kellaway giving grand support, the Tigers won by 35 points. A record 9-goal first quarter, the genius of Robert Harvey, and a 63-point second quarter lead were not enough as St Kilda suffered its most demoralising defeat at the hands of Hawthorn.
Best third quarter of football against St Kilda. So a couple of records here today. Taylor, can they get another one before three-quarter time? Holland!
What an amazing. But Holland, he's been terrific in this quarter. He's had 5 possessions, taken 3 telling marks, and this could be a sensational shot on goal to go into the three-quarter time huddle.
He's got it. That is an important goal for Hawthorn. Lord short of the centre circle. No goals scored so far in the final quarter. Young, the run from the back. That's a mark. The mark is there at half forward for Hawthorn.
He's the type of player that could bob up and kick a couple of goals in a few minutes.
Holland from 50. Hawthorn are in front for the first time. But how they've come back, they've worked and worked and worked. And there's the siren. And that does cap one of the most remarkable Hawthorn victories I have seen.
Across town, former Saints Nicky Winmar was revelling in the limelight as he led the Bulldogs to a 6-goal win over Fremantle, souring the Dockers' 100-game celebrations. A record Gabba crowd of nearly 25,000 saw Essendon post their 9th win of the season over Brisbane. Hardwick and Fletcher with big performances in a game between 2 major finals contenders. After 5 straight losses, Adelaide arrested the slump in somewhat unconvincing fashion against bottom side Collingwood. Grand final heroes Jarman and McLeod each kicked 5 goals as Adelaide fell in by a kick. Back after suspension, Peter Matera teamed with veterans Glenn Jakovich and Dean Kemp to produce one of those West Coast specials. A 10-goal win over Port Adelaide at Subiaco. At Carlton, fullback of the century Stephen Silvani and goal-kicking champ Tony Lockett tangled for perhaps the last time. Silvani holding Lockett to 2 goals. It would be the Swans, though, that took the points on their 125th birthday. And in the thriller of round 12, Melbourne watched a 3-goal final quarter lead swallowed up by the Kangaroos. The Roos doing it the hard way, kicking 2 goals 10 to win by a solitary point. Along the way, Wayne Carey became the Roos' greatest goal kicker. Finals quality football from 2 of the AFL's heavyweights. The Bombers and the Bulldogs slugged it out at the MCG in round 13. Despite losing Lloyd and Fletcher early with injury, Essendon held on by 4 points. Ben Cousins returned to his dad's old stomping ground at Shell Stadium and gave the locals a glimpse of his undoubted talent as he led the Eagles to a 44-point win over the Cats. It was Geelong's 8th loss in a row. With Harvey a last-minute withdrawal, St Kilda suffered yet another shocking second-half fade-out. This time, Collingwood, with Nathan Buckley and Mal Michael leading the way, sauntered home by 21 points. Port Adelaide led all night against Hawthorn, a 20-point win in a low-scoring game, with Burgoyne the star. After 5 first-quarter goals, Carlton could only manage 3 more for the night against the Kangaroos. It would be the Roos playmakers, Shannon Grant, Peter Bell and Anthony Stevens, who did the damage. On a muddy Sunday afternoon in Sydney, Brisbane re-established its position in the top 4 with a huge third quarter against the Swans. Lepic, Lappin and Michael Voss standouts. While Ben Holland's pressure goal gave Richmond a 1-point last-gasp victory over Fremantle, it was the best on-field performance from high flyer Matthew Richardson that was the talk of Perth. 22 kicks, 15 marks and 6 goals. Enough said. The twin towers of David Neitz and David Schwartz provided 8 Melbourne goals and the impetus up forward to halt Adelaide. The Crows kicked 13, of which Jarman contributed 9 in a Herculean solo performance.
It was fitting that his one and only media appearance this afternoon was in the John Nichols room at Optus Oval, Bradley joining the Big Nick and Bruce Dool in the 300 game club at Carlton.
I'm sure when I finish I'll be, pretty proud of the fact that I've been able to play 300 and I guess not many have done it.
While he played a lot of his footy with Port Adelaide, it was his move to Melbourne and into the big time in 1986 that sparked the beginning of an illustrious AFL career. But what's been the secret to his longevity still going around at age 35?
A bit of luck with injuries, I suppose looking after myself in the younger days. A mixture of everything really, I don't think it's pot luck.
But football hasn't always been his sporting passion. He toured with the Australian under-19 cricket team, which included a very young Craig McDermott and Ian Healy.
His status in the game hasn't changed Craig Bradley. He's still the Craig Bradley I knew, and that's a real tribute to him.
And this from one of his biggest influences at Carlton.
He's an ideal person for Australian football. He's been just a fantastic ambassador for this club.
Bradley will decide later in the year whether to call it quits. As for life after footy, coaching may already be out of the question.
And to be honest with you, I've played for, it's almost like I'm playing through my coaching career, I've had a fair crack at it.
The oldest man in the AFL, Craig Bradley, celebrated his 300th game and showed he'd lost none of his magic as he led Carlton to a 34-point win over Hawthorn.
I think in the finish he was one of the instrumental, parts of it. He's not just playing out his time, he's actually contributing as you'd like the captain and one of your better players to do so.
A heartbreaking 1-point loss to Port Adelaide left Collingwood 2 from 14 at the bottom of the ladder.
Gavin's wonderful wherever he plays, and it was a great, his last goal's probably, well, it did seal it for us, didn't it?
While Brownlow winner Gavin Wanganeen led his side superbly, all eyes were again on Nathan Buckley as he approached 40 possessions.
I thought Nathan was fantastic tonight. It's as good as he's played, and he really wanted to show that, he's a great player.
The Roos made it 10 in a row, and the 5th by less than 2 goals when they survived a frenetic final flurry from Brisbane. Anthony Stevens, the hero, in a 2-point win. Richmond appeared distracted by contractual negotiations with Richardson, Daffy, Knights and Campbell.
I thought Wayne Campbell was fantastic, but you'd have to say that the other 3 boys that signed contracts through the week had gains well below their best performances.
St Kilda, with Barry Hall kicking 6 goals, took advantage to record a 41-point win. Braun and Jakovic did the damage as the West Coast were barely troubled against Melbourne in Perth. In Sydney, meanwhile, the Swans opened with 8 goals against the Bulldogs, but watched a 40-point lead evaporate. With Brad Johnson starring, the visitors would win by 22 points. Mark Mercury, with 3 goals and plenty of the ball, was the key to Essendon's impressive 6-goal win over Fremantle at the MCG. Malcolm Blake wasn't interested in talk of a 3rd flag in a row after his side demolished Geelong. Adelaide received another brilliant 6-goal display from Darren Jarman, but the poor old Cats made it 9 losses in a row. Six more goals to Matthew Richardson and another stunning performance from the Tiger champ helped lift his side to its best win of the season over ladder leaders West Coast at the MCG.
Richardson's got it. He'll have to kick the ball 45 metres plus. He gets the distance and he's got the accuracy. Tigers have got 3.
Chasing him now is Rogers. Like to see Rogers in the forward line. Handball missed at mark. Sampson, good kick. Gives Richo the chance. He's got it. Great mark. Well-weighted kick coming in from Sampson.
And now this pass to Matthew Richardson may give the Tigers their 9th.
Yes, he released Richardson early in this match for a goal. This is a huge kick. Absolutely top-class footballers in this situation. Kicks goals, and he's done it.
Carlton's big-name players rose as the Blues upset Adelaide by 8 goals. Allen in the ruck, solid defenders in Silvani and Koutafidis, and the forward line domination of Pearce and Camporeale again pushed Carlton forward as a September threat. Despite being 20 points up at the last change, Collingwood let the match against Geelong just slip away. The Cats ended their horrific 9-game losing streak with Arnott, Snell and Riccardi the major reasons. A 7-0 final term gave Sydney an effortless win against Melbourne. Stevens, with 19 marks, putting in a huge solo effort for the Swans. Another body blow for the Saints as they were beaten by lowly Fremantle in Perth. Fletcher the best for the Dockers. Field umpire Peter Carey getting a special mention for the most talked about mark of the season.
Though, Fletcher, the centering kick, and the mark has been taken by umpire Carey.
That is I've never seen that.
No, I've never ever seen that.
I have never ever seen that.
It would be a single quarter that decided the match at the Gabba. The Lions kicking 9-0 in the third to end the Hawthorn threat. Jason Ackermanis the star. In one of the upsets of the season, Port Adelaide toppled Essendon. Francis, Paxman and French thrilling the 35,000 at Football Park. And on a weekend when the top three sides were beaten, North's run of 10 straight wins was ended by the Bulldogs. 6 goals from Chris Grant and the brilliance of Scotty West, the principal reasons.
Eccentric to the end, without a hint of warning, the game's most enigmatic figure dropped a bombshell on the football world.
Malcolm Blight in football and playing and coaching is over.
After 2 premierships in his first 2 seasons at the club, Blight wants a break from the game. The Adelaide board reluctantly agreeing last night to release him a season early.
I'm pretty tired, actually. The battery's really running down. And
a recent illness to Blight's wife Patsy is also believed to be a key reason, with a return to Melbourne to be nearer their children on the cards. On top of the premierships, Blight leaves a legacy of immense theatre on the game, his decision as Geelong coach to line his players up outside the Crows' rooms, and his bizarre style of lecturing at three-quarter time just last weekend among his stunts. His decision ends a glorious 25 years in football, a Brownlow medal and 2 premierships, highlighting his 178 games as a player, 23 finals appearances underpinning 228 games as a coach, including 6 years at Geelong. His departure today met with immense praise.
The Adelaide Footy Club has been a very privileged club to have had an icon, stroke champion, associated with it.
Malcolm Blight in football is parting company.
With 7 goals for the Tigers and 27 in his last 5 games, Matthew Richardson was leading Richmond's September charge. Against Melbourne, he was again outstanding in a 25-point win. Tim Watson witnessed another mediocre performance from St Kilda. This time it was Brisbane who controlled the game, kicking 10 goals to 4 after half-time. 40 points down at three-quarter time, the Bulldogs didn't hit the front against Adelaide until the 31-minute mark of the final quarter. They'd win by 2 points.
Go down as one of the all-time classics in AFL commentary. Cook goes short. Rowan Smith getting better as the game goes. Smith, goal!
Well, he's booted 3 goals.
Stevens kicks the ball long out towards the wing. Mark taken by Grant. Plays on quickly. Powell's been instrumental. He's had about 7 possessions already. Cook! He's got the ball. This is a very important kick. If the previous 2 or 3 chances were important, they went begging. Cook must kick a goal. He does. Away to Curley. Curley's kick will put them within scoring range. It's a Bulldog mark. Darcy has taken it. Picture of concentration. Gets onto the drop punt, gets the distance and the accuracy. They're dead level at the cricket ground.
Libber keeps the ball in, that's where the Dogs want it. Cook is there, Hudson waits down. Front of the pack, Rowan Smith. Nobody in the goal square. Any score will put them in front. They lead by a point.
With 7 first-half goals and 9 for the match, Wayne Carey stamped his authority on the Kangaroos' commanding 55-point win over Geelong in Sydney. This was the King at his most regal.
Kick by Harvey forward, bouncing ball. Carey's read it best. He's got a chance. Carey's kick around the body is a beauty. He is putting on a show.
Could have been held. Plays on. The lightning hand pass was beautiful to Durkay. Durkay spotted Carey. He's a beautiful kick. Great kick as he saw him down at half forward.
Barry Stoneham looking to get down the ground on the overturn, but the turnover cost him badly.
He's kicked 522 goals for his club, and he's now kicked 4 for the quarter.
Wayne's been under a bit of pressure from a few areas, and he answered his critics in the best way possible, kicking 9 goals. And we thought he was terrific tonight, and his leadership goes without saying. It was of the highest quality.
Blustery winds ruined the spectacle when Port Adelaide came home with the gale to upset Sydney at Football Park. Stevens, Lade and Mead were star performers for the Power. Carlton's finals prospects were put under scrutiny by Essendon. The Bombers won by 76 points in front of 66,000 at the MCG. In an even performance, Mercury shone. Another Nathan Buckley gem. This time the Collingwood captain had the ball on a string as he mesmerised Hawthorn. It was Collingwood's 3rd win for the season.
Today, I reckon, was nearly the all-round captain's game, and some of those courageous marks in that last bit, in the last 10 minutes in his direction, I thought, yeah, you wouldn't get many better than a captain's game like that.
Game number 200 for Eagles stalwart Chris Mainwaring was eminently forgettable as the West Coast lost their first hometown derby to Fremantle by 47 points. Along the way, Tony Modra with 6 goals passed 500, a personal milestone.
Taken by Holland, kept his head nicely, goes to McManus. He's confronted there by Kemp, spots Harding to the outer side. Harding's got it. Modra comes on the lead. The kick goes towards the pocket. Modra and McIntosh. Modra does brilliantly. Deep in the pocket, impossible angle. What a goal! What a goal! Jakovic stumps it down. McIntosh had it deflect off his body. Jakovic again, working against the odds. Threw it on the boot. Taken by Harding, who's been a valuable player. Pulls it back towards full forward Modra.
Yeah, Modra's been a fairly good player today. He hasn't had a lot of the footy. This will be only his 6th kick, but this could possibly be his 4th goal. McIntosh has been his opponent all day. It's been a terrific contest watching those 2 players go about their stuff.
A career milestone for Modra as he kicks from 15 metres out. 500 goals.
Big Spider Everett was everywhere for St Kilda on this Friday night at the MCG. His 5-goal haul was a match-winning performance as the Saints survived a 3rd-quarter fade-out to beat Melbourne by 19 points. 68,000 trooped to the MCG the next day, sensing something special. How right they were. Essendon and the Kangaroos produced one of the games of the season. 44 goals, 10 from Carey at one end in a virtuoso performance, 7 including this perler from Lloyd at the other. Class. The Bombers by 26 points.
Half forward, and he slipped slightly, but still was good enough to take the mark. Players on Blumfield, on the bounce. Lloyd regains his footing. Out of the air!
What a goal! Of the year!
Back out on the 50. Simpson concedes some ground to King running out of room. Round the corner he goes. It bounces in the vicinity of Carey. In the vicinity! Magnificent!
What a goal!
20 points up halfway through the final term, Geelong surrendered to the Bulldogs. 4 unanswered goals gave the Dogs a most unexpected but pleasant victory. For a record 14th time, Tony Lockett passed 50 goals in a season. His 6 against Richmond vital as the Swans recorded a 41-point win. Port Adelaide, with Burgoyne and Lade leading the way, recorded a club best 5th straight win. The 7-point victory over Fremantle at the Wacker pushed them into 6th place on the ladder. While Shane Crawford stood out with 40-plus possessions for Hawthorn, his side was never really in the match against Adelaide. The Crows by 49 points. In the worst defeat of the Mick Malthouse era in Perth, the Eagles were pounded by Brisbane. Marcus Ashcroft helping to set up the win with 19 touches in the first quarter alone. Malloy and Voss each kicked 5 as the Lions skipped away to a 100-point win. Simon Beaumont, in his 50th game, was the unlikely hero for the Blues, kicking 8 goals in the traditional clash against Collingwood. 53,000 saw Carlton home by 57 points. It was not the best of Wayne Carey's 200 games for the Kangaroos, but the 22-point win over Richmond put his side a game clear in 2nd place on the ladder. Retired Melbourne champ Gary Lyon was sent off prior to the game against Geelong. It failed to inspire the insipid Demons, who lost to Geelong for the 9th time in a row. Stoneham produced one of his best games for the year. Malcolm Blight conjured up some more magic when he placed pint-sized Trent Ormond-Allen against St Kilda's Spider Everett. It was merely a sideshow, as the Crows, with Burton marking sensationally, won by 33 points. Rain and Essendon spoiled Sydney's party. In the Swans' 200th home game, the Bombers led all night and won by 14 points. After 3 straight losses, the West Coast bounced back and for the 9th time in a row proved too strong for Collingwood. Goal-kicking leader Scott Cummings helped himself to 7 in a 36-point win. Michael Voss was back to his Brownlow form of 1996 as he led Brisbane to an imposing 52-point win over Port Adelaide. For the second time this season, Carlton won a heartstopper against the Bulldogs. 2 points in round 3 and 5 points in round 18, provided the Blues with a surge from 9th to 6th place on the ladder. Ruckman Matty Allen superb.
Last time I thought Wynn had the better of Matt, but I think this time the young fella probably did the job as we would have wanted him to do.
Everything is working right on cue for Matthew Allen, whether on the pool table or shouldering the ruck duties in the Blues' resurgence. Again last week, Allen was Carlton's best, outmuscling Scott Wind and paving the way for the Blues' second victory this season over the Bulldogs.
Where they need a mark. Oh, Allen's got it and he's kicked the goal. Good play.
Now in the run to the finals, Allen has a burning ambition to be part of the September action.
I'd be really rapt if we could get into the finals, Jim. I suppose having missed the success in '95, myself and a few other guys are pretty hungry.
He's the form ruckman of the competition and is expected to poll well in next month's Brownlow medal. And with Mark Porter and Tony Berg both spending lengthy stints on the sidelines, so much more responsibility is rested on Allen.
The coaching staff have been really good with me. They've sort of, let me go when I'm a little bit tired during the week.
While he made his debut back in 1994, he served a lengthy apprenticeship under Justin Madden. But according to one of the Blues' favourite sons, Allen has definitely come of age.
He's taking marks, he's kicking goals, and he's winning in the ruck, so he's doing everything that you want a ruckman to do.
A 16-goal second half against its jacket-waving rivals of the 90s ensured Essendon would maintain top spot on the ladder. Peter Riccardi sparkled as Geelong revived its finals hopes and put a question mark over Port Adelaide at Shell Stadium.
Hand pass comes out to Stodham. Stodham's kick up towards the full forward pocket. Bond. Snell lost sight of it, recovers, goes off the ground and kicks one. Took a terrific grab in the first quarter. Now Kilpatrick kicks around his former teammate Brewer. Graham again, taking another one at full forward. Ben Graham from 25 metres out, kicks his second.
Captain Blood Jack Dyer and his old sidekick Lou Richards welcomed nearly 48,000 to the MCG as the Tigers met the Magpies. The game would be one-sided, with Gavin Brown helping Collingwood to its 4th win of the season. Sydney were the visitors at the SCG, but struggled against the Kangaroos. In game number 200, Anthony Stevens was everywhere. Carey kicked 4, while Mick Martin held Plugger to a lone goal.
Yeah, I thought Michael Martin was outstanding tonight. I thought he was our best player, and he did a terrific job. And I couldn't rate his performance highly enough.
It's become a very familiar tune, and Tony Lockett has become a cult figure in Sydney. But this afternoon, just days before his final appearance on the SCG, Plugger pulled the pin.
The time's right, more than anything. I have a young family now, and I'm looking forward to spending more time with them. It was always going to be hard to come up again, and I certainly don't want to be in the way around here.
Ballarat's favourite son has done it all, a career that began at Moorabbin in 1983, but in his 12 seasons with St Kilda, Tony had his moments both on and off the field. And when the opportunity in 1995 came up to escape the spotlight here, Lockett didn't take long to make an impression in Sydney. That behind on one leg got the Swans into the grand final.
It certainly helped me as an individual, and it certainly helped my footy. So, to Sydney, I really have to thank.
In June this year, he became the greatest of them all.
It's going to go!
He's just a freak of nature to be that big, as you say, but to have the acceleration and the agility and the deft movement that he has it's extraordinary. And I mean, rolled into one package, it was virtually unbeatable, and that's why he's the greatest ever.
And his plans to keep fit after footy?
I'm going to train for a marathon in a couple of years, but no, I'm only joking.
Carlton was moving back into contention. Matthew Allen fighting off the flu in a best-on-ground performance over a disappointing Fremantle. For the second week in a row, Brisbane won at Football Park. Chris Scott, Marcus Ashcroft and Michael Voss the best in a 39-point win over Adelaide. As Melbourne struggled off the field, its players were no match on the field for Hawthorn. A 68-point win to the Hawks, engineered by Lord with 6 goals and Crawford 3. Brownlow medalists Robert Harvey and Tony Liberatore stole the show in a slog at Optus Oval. The Bulldogs leading all day to win by 24 points.
I thought that we really needed a special effort with a couple of our team leaders out, and I asked Libba before the game whether he could really stand up for us today, and I thought he'd give us that back tenfold.
More than 56,000 braved the bitter cold to see Essendon continue its brilliant form. Although depleted, the Bombers' comfortable winners over a Collingwood side led brilliantly by Nathan Buckley. A month short of his 34th birthday, Nicky Winmar moved like a youngster, kicking 4 goals in the Bulldogs' 36-point win over Richmond. After 7 seasons, St Kilda farewelled Waverley. Not the way they would have liked. They watched Peter Bell and Wayne Carey in brilliant form. For the second week in a row, Melbourne kicked 1 goal until half-time. Port Adelaide, with Lade outstanding, did the rest. The thriller of the round saw Hawthorn severely dent the Eagles' finals aspirations. Skipper Shane Crawford putting in a match-winning performance at the Wacker. There has never been a first half like it. 131 points on the board at half-time, and Brisbane could afford to coast home against Fremantle at the Gabba. Lawrence and Leppich standouts.
Goes up long towards goals. That's just about there again. Might have been touched on the line, was it not? No, it was not. In the right back pocket. Very promising youngster. And they certainly need a few at Freo at the moment. Clark will give it to White. Not a great kick. White looking for someone to give a hand pass to. That was brilliant as it turned out. Can he cap it off with a goal? Of course he can. Chased by McManus. Lappin tried to set something up. He canned to Kennedy. That was brilliantly done. McManus can run. Decides to go for the hand pass to Leppich, making a nuisance of himself. Look at that kick. Oh, Ben Graham eats your heart out.
An 8-goal first quarter by Geelong was just enough foundation to win the game against Carlton. The Blues' Allen and Katz Riccardi producing eye-catching performances. It was Tony Lockett Day yet again in Sydney. The big bloke playing his last game at the SCG and treating Adelaide to some plugger magic. 8 goals in a 118-point win.
Play by the Swans. O'Loughlin now on the burst. O'Connor and Wharf even wider. It's Saddington, I should say. To Saddington, to Schwass to kick a goal. There you go to plugger. Got him. Got him. Into the heart of the breeze. Careful with it. Steady with it. Another big day in terms of stats. Kicks it to Kelly, who's looked as good as he's looked all year, Kelly. Over the top, Nix has run very hard for him. He's going to be rewarded. He's at 50, short, got Lockett. Terrific stuff. Comes in. They like it. Behind the goal. He's kicked 6.
I think this is a good move to run around the centre square, not the boundary line.
It's a great shot, actually, isn't it, of Tony? He has risen to enormous heights in this city. Richard Collins said on game day that he's arguably the biggest personality in this city that will host the Olympics next year, the lovely winner. And we talked about that delicious irony of him coming here wanting some anonymity at the end of probably where he'd come to the end of his tether at St Kilda and Moorabbin after a glorious career there. And yet now he stands above all the players that have probably ever played the game in terms of his popularity and his notoriety and his fame. There, I don't think has ever been a more famous player, footballer, around the length and breadth of this country.
I've enjoyed his career watching him play, and I suppose if you're going to go that way, I'll remember it as a Lockett Day rather than what the Adelaide Football Club done. He's been a great champion.
He's regarded as one of the toughest players of the last decade, but that ferocious approach to the game has taken its toll. But Todd Viney says injuries, in particular a knee problem, aren't the main reasons for quitting.
The fire in my belly to strive to be the best and train harder than the next bloke, things that have made me a 200-game player. I just feel that I haven't got that drive in my stomach anymore. So.
He won 2 best and fairest for the Demons and has played 231 games, All-Australian selection last year, and he's played in 18 finals. With another retired Demon champion watching on, Viney must now contemplate life after footy and possibly a move back home to Adelaide and a role on the Crows coaching staff.
If a position became available and I saw the future there for me, and then I wouldn't mind packing up and going.
Back in Viney's hometown, the end of the road for the man given one of the more memorable sprays from a coach, David Pittman announcing his retirement.
To start like that means you won't win, particularly with a pathetic effort from Pittman in ruck. I mean, it was the most disgraceful display I've ever seen from a big fella.
At the time it was, it was pretty helter-skelter there for a while, but it was for the betterment of the club, and if we won 2 flags on the back of it, well, I'll put my hand up and take it.
Essendon was guaranteed a top spot on the ladder after demolishing Richmond with a 9-goal second quarter. The ball handling of Mark Mercury and 6 goals from Lloyd said it all. St Kilda's dismal second half of the season continued. This time it was Carlton, led by the tireless veteran Craig Bradley, who made Tim Watson's boys look tired and second-rate. In game number 200 for Alistair Lynch, it would be a rookie, Tim Notting, with 6 goals, who helped Brisbane to an effortless win over Melbourne. Michael Voss outstanding. For the second week in a row, Hawthorn won by 2 points, this time Geelong. Shane Crawford with 28 possessions and 3 goals, sealing many media awards along the way.
We're talking about a bloke who's going to take himself, elevate himself into one of the great player categories in, in this club's history, I reckon. I mean, with the leadership he's showing and just his ability to play in a number of roles, and his ability to do desperate things at desperate times. Like he's just, I mean, that's why we respect him so much.
The Swans ensured they'd be playing finals football, and Tony Lockett, with 5 against Fremantle, made sure he'd be part of it. Darren Creswell was the star. In the showdown at Football Park, Port Adelaide fine-tuned their finals campaign by defeating the reigning premiers with a workmanlike performance. Josh Franku and Gavin Wanganeen leading the charge. Collingwood led into the final quarter of its match against the Kangaroos. Veteran Mick Martin again terrific for the Kangaroos in a 13-point win. And Chris Grant gave a timely reminder of his great skills as the Bulldogs held off the West Coast to win a thriller at Optus Oval.
The toughest decision of Jeff Geeson's life was made easy. Told last week the Tigers had approached Kevin Sheedy, he decided to jump first and today negotiated a 6-figure settlement to leave the club.
I sort of really started to question, whether I thought I could really continue under the sort of pressures that you're under.
It's understood President Leon Daphne phoned Sheedy several times last week, a factor Geeson admits contributed to his decision.
I guess it puts it into perspective and makes you realise that, maybe the club think there might be a better person out there than yourself.
Geeson's departure has the Bombers in a panic with Kevin Sheedy in his strongest ever position at the club, and the Bomber coach is doing nothing to douse speculation he might accept an offer to join the Tigers.
Would you consider going back to punt, right?
At the appropriate time you would, yeah. If I didn't end up going back as coaching, I could always go back at a board level.
The Bomber board will decide on Thursday whether to up the ante on a 2-year offer to Sheedy.
We can't let whatever happens at Richmond bother us. We've got to do what we think's the right thing and get that finalised.
Daphne, who wants to continue as president, will not be drawn on Sheedy. Football director Tony Jewell with other suggestions.
I mean, what do Richmond need at the moment, rather than a candidate? What sort of...
JC, I think, at the moment.
The distance or time.
After a week of sleepless nights, Kevin Sheedy answered the $1.8 million question, rejecting a massive offer from Richmond this morning. One just last week he was said to accept.
Probably at one stage I've nearly could have been moving that way.
The Richmond offer says Sheedy was one of 4 from other clubs. The emotional attachment of Tigerland hardest to turn down.
Probably like saying to yourself, well, gee whiz, you've got a son and a daughter, and which one do you really care about? And you really care about them both.
The 3-year deal was the Bombers' third attempt in a month to re-sign him, after original offers of 1- and 2-year terms, which would not have kept him at Windy Hill.
No, not at all. Not when I know what the offers was from other clubs and or were from other clubs, and definitely not.
In a fiery finale to the home and away season, Matty Knights led his Tigers to a telling win over Carlton, giving Jeff Geeshan a stirring send-off. Victoria Park was renamed Jock McHale Stadium for the last game at the old ground, but no amount of tradition could swing victory Collingwood's way. Clark Keating led Brisbane to its 8th straight win.
You know, this club was built on a work ethic which, you know, has been the greatest at AFL level for a long period of time. You know, the thing is that the whole ethos of the group and the club has been built on integrity, on honesty, and a work ethic, like I said, which has been unmatched before. It has been intimidation to come through the gates of Victoria Park to play Collingwood here. I wish you all the best. I say, go out and enjoy it. And I tell you what, I've only enjoyed football one time, and that's when I've been a bloody winner as a player or as a coach, and that's what our aim is today. Let's get out there and have a go at it.
Melbourne came close to toppling Essendon, but the power of Stephen Alessio and the drive of Darren Buick ended their dreams. In game number 250, Nicky Winmar showed all that old class to help the Bulldogs demolish Port Adelaide on the eve of their first final series. Andrew Thompson reminded St Kilda fans of what might have been as he led the Saints to a 41-point win over the disappointing Eagles in Perth. Adelaide farewelled Malcolm Blight, and the Kangaroos showed just how much the Crows had slipped with a 76-point thumping. Byron Pickett just sensational. Geelong won 4 of its last 5 games, this day defeating Fremantle. Steinfurt the best for the Cats. And 72,000 trooped to Waverley for the last time, and the Hawthorn faithful liked what they saw. The Hawks, with Thompson kicking 6, delivered an 85-point farewell to the Swans.
President Ian Dicker delivered the body blow to Judge this morning. The Hawthorn board voting last night to deny his request for a contract extension, despite the Hawks' spectacular finish to the season. Judge, who still has 1 year to go of his present deal, has headed away for the weekend to consider his future, reportedly deflated at the lack of support. The door now ajar for West Coast and even Geelong and Richmond to secure his services. If Judge resigns, the Hawks could target umpires boss Peter Schwab, who's desperate to coach.
I just want a position. I really want to coach at AFL level, and whoever gives me the opportunity, I'll be grateful.
Judge now is in the same predicament Geelong coach Gary Ayres was in 2 weeks ago. Today he said that was the chief reason he'd signed with the Crows.
The club made that pretty clear that it was just an issue of coaching for the next 12 months, and look, I can understand that. So I just feel professionally my career lies elsewhere.
Ayres later flew into Adelaide without a hint of resentment of quitting the embattled Cats.
No one's walked away from anybody in this situation.
Geelong upping the ante to find his replacement. Bulldog assistant Brian Royal and Brisbane's Gary O'Donnell to be interviewed this weekend.
The West Coast Scott Cummings, rejected by Essendon and Port Adelaide, proved them both wrong when he won the Coleman Medal as an Eagle. And Sydney youngster Adam Goods was a clear-cut winner of the Norwich Union Rising Star. There had been rumbles for weeks that Mick Malthouse would coach Collingwood in 2000. He added fuel to the speculation when he announced he was leaving the Eagles to return to Melbourne. First, some unfinished business. In the first of the qualifying finals, he inspired his men to a rousing and unexpected win over the Bulldogs.
It's another one. It's there. The Eagles have won it against all the odds. It's one of the big upsets in recent years. No question about that.
Carey, in the space of a few minutes, blitzed Port Adelaide.
Too good. Screaming for the ball is Carey. He wants it in the pocket. He's screaming for it. He's been ignored by Capuano. Carey rushing back to the square. He's got it. Unbelievable play by Carey.
Despite losing skipper Michael Voss in bizarre circumstances, Brisbane continued its impressive form, swamping Carlton.
So many. It's been almost a complete team effort. Here he goes, Malloy. Still, he keeps on going, and look at this.
And an 8-goal first quarter by Essendon paved the way to an effortless win over the Swans.
Alessio there. Mercury, brilliant. 10 possessions in the first quarter. Mark Mercury has already got 3 goals.
For Tony Lockett, it was the end. 5 goals in his last match, and again he would be the centre of attention.
There's not one person here that's not acknowledging that.
The coaching merry-go-round continued. Mark Thompson, Essendon's 93 premiership captain, signed with Geelong. Triple premiership defender Peter Schwab returned to Glenferrie as coach of Hawthorn. David Parkin had described his team as B-grade. They made a step closer to the big time when they eliminated the Eagles in the first semi-final.
Defensive 50 goes short, he's run too far.
It's just not running the West Coast Eagles way. Scott Cummings took a bounce very early in the run, but then just went a couple of steps too far after he'd taken that bounce.
Well, that was remarkable with Silvani coming all the way down. And Scotty comes in, Silvani's going to kick a goal!
It was Malthouse's farewell after a decade.
Just asking his players for a supreme effort, Dennis, knowing that football probably teaches players and coaches alike the word respect.
In Brisbane, Lee Matthews' Lions were lethal. The Bulldogs out in straight sets.
Malloy comes charging out. Here's the D9! What a goal! Malloy's done it again! And I think Alistair Lynch might be saying... There you go. I think we know what he might have said then. But perhaps have a look at the scoreboard.
On a cold Friday night at the MCG, the vigour of the Kangaroos would be telling in a spirited seesawing encounter.
Simpson goes after the awkward ball. Champion confronts he. In goes Archer. Bursts his way through. Wait till he has an impact. He made here, right here. That hasn't been touched. It's a goal. You would have to suggest it's a goal to the Kangaroos.
McCartney hard on Keating. It would result in a 4-week suspension. The Roos would win, but would go into the grand final under a cloud.
I hope it's only a sprain, because that looked pretty severe when he came down.
Carlton were never supposed to be a threat to Essendon. It would be the match of the season in the second of the preliminary finals. Again, the lead would seesaw. Into the fray like a giant came Anthony Koutoufides. In the last quarter, he all but sealed a thrilling 1-point win.
Standing start by Ratton. Won't quite make it. Cooter again.
They are into the grand final. Carlton is into the grand final.
While the Blues and the Roos prepared for their first grand final clash, the football elite assembled in Sydney for the Brownlow Count, the first held outside Melbourne. There would be no surprises this night. Hawthorn's Shane Crawford, the hottest favourite for the decade, taking the medal.
Ladies and gentlemen, I declare Shane Crawford the winner of the 1999 Brownlow Medal.
Ladies and gentlemen, to present the 1999 Brownlow Medal to Shane Crawford, the man who's won the last 2 Brownlow medals, Robert Harvey from St Kilda. Ladies and gentlemen, Robert Harvey. Your mum, who must have played such a huge role in your development. Both you and your brother have played AFL football. You've both been sent to Assumption College. I know there's another boy in the family as well, but Diane's with us from Finley right now, Shane. She's able to talk to you. She's there she is, in the New South Wales country town of Finley. So Mum's made a lot of sacrifices. It must have been pretty tough for Mum as a single mum bringing you and your brothers up. You got a word or two to say to her right now?
Actually, can't. I'm going to start crying. Footballers aren't meant to cry.
Oh, you can cry as much as you like. Diane, how do you feel about Shane and his achievements tonight?
I think it's absolutely wonderful, and I'm so proud.
Hamill was reported for kneeing bomber Dean Wallace during Saturday's preliminary final at the MCG. The forward's still stunned when he arrived at training.
You'll be right, Aaron. Come on, Aaron.
He's a very good young man, Aaron. He's a terrific young fellow, and he's absolutely devastated. I think there'd be a hell of a lot of empathy and a fair bit of grunt from the players to try and bring the bacon home, you know, partly for his sake as well.
Hamill joins the likes of John Coleman, Carl Dittrich, Phil Carman and Peter Schwab, and another Blue, Bernie Evans, to miss a grand final through suspension. The Roos too have their worries, with Jason McCartney desperate to clear his name and play on Saturday. He was reported for striking Brisbane's Clark Keating in the final term of Friday's preliminary final at the MCG. He will plead not guilty. Anxious Roos officials also examined this incident involving fullback Mick Martin and Lion Simon Black. League investigator Rick Lewis interviewed the veteran Roo for almost 3 hours at Arden Street last night. The Roos argued contact was made with an open hand, and late this afternoon Lewis found there was insufficient evidence to refer the matter to the tribunal. Hamill arrived to a hero's welcome at Optus Oval. The Blue forwards upheld appeal last night, the talk of the ground.
I think the good feeling that I had at the time of the announcement would have been ricocheting around the team as a whole, because I think they'd understand that Aaron's been a pretty important part of our front half setup.
Carlton spent $250,000 fighting the Williams matter, and the result was we got an appeals tribunal, so I suppose we got our first payoff for all the money we spent.
Suddenly everything's going right for the Blues. Parkin tonight doing a backflip of his own, now talking up Adrian Hickmott's chances of a shock recovery from injury.
If you get through and do the normal stuff, and it should be a reasonably intense night tonight for a short period of time, we'd be very keen to pick him.
Brilliant sunshine, 2 Melbourne teams and a grand final size crowd. For Silvani and Sons, a family affair to farewell the fullback century.
You know, they go through it with you, so it's just great that, you know, we can bring them along.
First-timer Lance Whitnell couldn't believe the crowd.
Amazing, about 4 or 5 deep.
The tall forward obviously couldn't see the last 5 rows. From the air, the crowd of more than 100,000 choked the city. North fans wouldn't bother to vote for this Carey. Besides, you don't vote for the king.
It's a bit of fun, gives a bit back, doesn't it? So it's good.
A terrific experience and a good chance to soak it up and think about things tomorrow.
Anthony Stevens was giving no thought to his injured ankle.
You would have been right to walk this, wouldn't you? Yeah, I would love to, actually. Yeah. A bit of exercise.
The players and the crowd converged at the old Treasury building, where, depending on the team, half cheered and half jeered. The MCG is getting its final brush-up, and every fan is getting a free footy, while over at Colonial Stadium, the captain who wins the toss can kick to the Lockett end.
A great man. Tony Lockett.
The game's greatest full forward will farewell the MCG tomorrow, but his last kick will be at Colonial Stadium's Lockett end.
I might sneak out there after a game and have a kick around one day.
For Wayne Carey or Craig Bradley, the day will bring the ultimate sporting joy when they hold aloft the last Premiership Cup of the millennium.
More than 95,000 fans packed the MCG for the final act of the 90s. The Blues started well, but gradually the Kangaroos went to the front and stayed there.
Goes for it and is going to kick the first goal. Brett Ratton. Well, David King will be disappointed.
To within 45 metres, that's a free kick. No, the umpires let play go on. Christou, Grant, still shooting Grant. Magnificent goal by Grant for the Kangaroos. He squeezes a high kick. It'll land close to the square. Lappin, has he been paid? No, he hasn't. The man in front stood his ground manfully. It was Matthew Capuano, and he's been paid the mark.
And have a look at this again from Dean Rice.
Bathed in sunshine now, the Melbourne cricket ground. He bombs away to the square. It's still alive, Lappin! Matthew Lappin's kicked the goal for the Blues.
It's on. It's on. McKay is clear and he's got Bradley, but beautiful interception by David King. All the way. Here goes King. All the way. All the way, they say. He bounced his way through the
by centre. He goes all the way. He's beaten Murphy. 60 metres out.
Harvey's little kick to half forward. They need a goal here. McKernan, he must impose himself on the match. Scholl goes. McKernan loads it up and gives it a run. Kicks the goal.
Looks like he's just come out of the trenches. He's just hobbled on. He's got one leg. Look at this.
Here's the goal. Peter Bell wobbles and wobbles and wobbles it through for their fourth for the corner. Gives away quickly to Clayton, who goes to half forward. McKay unable to take it cleanly at the back. Shannon Grant, 2 attempts. He wobbles it. He needs it to spin to the left.
Kicks the ball towards half forward. Lappin, he's got to get this and score a goal, Matthew Lappin. That's what he's paid for, and that's what he's gone and done. 2 goals to Lappin.
Not sure what Arch was doing there, but lucky he pulled it up a bit.
Well, also coming off the ground. But you're right, David King, he's not used to the running requirements of the midfield, and he's really blowing.
Chance here for the Blues.
Kicks the ball back to centre wing. Scholl, the flyer. He's taken a terrific mark, Craig Scholl.
Just did his man. They came over the top, and Lappin takes an exciting mark. Well, drama. We've got Murphy down. That's what happened. Knee or ankle?
Knee. That's the knee. Just have a look at it. Oh, gee, the foot gripped and the knee went.
Kicks up towards half forward. Courage shown by Simpson.
He's played. He has played one heck of a game.
There's Carey and Archer clashing with one another, but what a difference 365 days makes.
And a down bell, 15. Grant's kick 3. Grant's kick 3. Grant's kick 4. Grant's kick 4. Dennis obviously is objected to this. This is must have better security than all of this. Kicks the ball back inside. Carey's got it.
Sauce can't believe it.
Silvani had him wrapped up, but the King found a way. Ron Casey, the chairman, straight in front, takes his time, caresses it through, and he's got 2.
The Kangaroos had won their 4th flag. Shannon Grant had won the Norm Smith medal. For Dennis Pagan, it was a fitting finale to the 90s.
For the first time, fans trekked from stadium to stadium for the 5th and longest quarter at Melbourne Park, but this was no tennis crowd. The biggest cheer and a few tears were for John Longmire. Twice he missed out on grand finals. This time he finally got a medal.
I mean, it's what dreams are made of, to play a terrific game in a winning grand final side. Doesn't get any better than that.
Off the stage, players and the cup sent the crowd into a frenzy. The reception was the same at the team's official dinner.
This is a hell of a lot more enjoyable than it was 12 months ago to the day. The worst feeling you could ever have was this time last year, and the best feeling you could ever have is right now. So.
It was like a scene from a Hollywood movie launch. New sponsors Volvo unveiled with the new coach on board.
We have come to the fullness of time, and it gives me great pleasure to announce that the coach of the Collingwood Football Club for the next 3 seasons and beyond is Michael Malthouse.
Malthouse in the driver's seat for the next 3 years with his own coach's sponsor. The ex-Eagle inspired by the Magpies' off-field direction.
I guess what got hold of me was the fact that the club wants to do something about itself.
And he's already set high aims, desperate to help lift the club to the levels of an English soccer giant.
My goal is to promote Collingwood into the same aura that Manchester holds in England.
Magpies have now vowed all jobs are on the line. President Eddie Maguire describing the Malthouse coup as the pinnacle of the club's change of direction.
Last year there was an approach made to Damien Drum, and he chose the Fremantle Dockers ahead of the Collingwood Football Club. 12 months later, Michael Malthouse comes to Collingwood ready for action.
On the coaching front, the West Coast has finally announced Ken Judge as its senior coach in what is believed to be a 3-year deal worth around $1 million.
At a pretty delicate stage from a playing list point of view. I mean, they've got some absolutely fantastic players who are getting towards the end of their career. And so there's a challenge there for a few of the younger players at West Coast to step up and take a bit more responsibility.
One man who does know where he's going is Danny Frawley, appointed Richmond coach for 3 years. The third longest serving captain in AFL history, Spud was careful not to talk of finals or premierships, but did promise a tougher Tiger team.
Probably some of my values in life about honesty, discipline, commitment and trust. And I think that if you keep to those values and stick by them, through thick or thin, you can't go wrong.